And European markets surged in the morning after U.S. President Donald Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping agreed to hold off on additional tariffs on a bid to reignite trade talks. But let's see how that news and others are rocking the European markets today. Conrad Bussen will tell us more. Hello, Conrad. Good afternoon. A rainy day in Lagos today again.
Good afternoon, Jimmy. It's good to see you again.
Right. Well, markets on China's mainland and in Japan have been thrilled about the meeting of Donald Trump with not just Xi Jinping, but also with Kim Jong-un of North Korea. How has the start been on the European trading floors?
It's been a very, very upbeat start into this second half of 2019 on the European trading floors. The German DAX immediately after trading started this morning made a jump upwards. Of course, it's good news for the whole world, I would say, that we've seen over the weekend, renewed efforts, not only between Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un, but of course the fact that the Chinese and the US have postponed another escalation of their trade spat is really, really positive. And it's become obvious that Donald Trump is in election campaign mode, that he is focusing on his image during the year 2020, the election year in the US. And the events over the weekend made more and more people on the markets convinced that Donald Trump is likely not to want to go into this election year with an American economy slowing down or even heading towards a recession, because that's what's become obvious in recent weeks and months, that also the American economy is getting to feel a negative impact of the import tariffs and of the worldwide economic slowdown. And we shouldn't forget, over the weekend we've also been getting a fair amount of positive economic news from Europe. The European Union struck huge trade deals with Mercosur, which is the common market of Latin America, and also another trade deal with Vietnam. Both deals still have to go through certain legislative processes, but they are the fact that the negotiations are over and that those deals are ready to be signed. That's really a positive statement in favor of world trade.
Well, talking about the European Union, in Brussels, the discussion about replacements for 5 of the European Union's top jobs is getting in its final hour, it seems, though. What's the take on all in these in Frankfurt, where we have the Europe's financial community?
Those talks again have been postponed until tomorrow. It really looks like Europe needs this very last hour, as always, to find its compromises. And of course, now people on the markets are discussing all of the different options on the table. And I can tell you, there are a huge amount of different options, of different ideas, who becomes what in the European Union in future on the table. All of those options have in common that it's pretty impossible to predict what the real outcome will be. For example, in terms of the new chief of the European Central Bank, which has to be determined, a successor to Mario Draghi, newspapers in France report that the French government now is in favor of a woman becoming Draghi's successor. Here in Germany, many people believe that the chances for our Jens Weidmann, the chief of the National Reserve Bank, Bundesbank, to become the new president of the ECB are on the rise, because the chances of another German are sinking. That's Manfred Weber, the conservative chief in the European Parliament, who wanted to become chief of the European Commission, but who failed to get a majority, and who obviously, or reportedly, failed to get enough backing from the German Chancellor. With his chances sinking, chances of Weidmann might be rising. Now, listening to what I have to say, you probably reckon, Jimmy, there are many different names on the table. It's a long and tedious process, which of course is something that many people on the markets are also criticizing. They like more straight-cut decision-making, but Europe is a very complex entity. It takes a while to get a compromise and to find the right solutions.
I know. Anyway, Conrad, let's talk about the weather. It's pretty cold here because it's been raining in Lagos, and I know it's hot out there in Frankfurt. How are Germans coping with the heat wave there? Are their companies benefiting from this climate change there?
Well, of course there are, Jimmy. I mean, we have the obvious candidates like ice cream makers who have the, deals of the business of their lifetime right now. And also, I have to say, it's maybe interesting for you guys in Lagos to hear, Germany has never been really a country with air conditioning in private homes. Only 4% of German households do own an air conditioning system. And now home appliance stores report that demand for private air conditioning systems is really on the rise. Also, as many Germans are really linking that heat wave, we have the hottest June days on the record. And this is obviously linked by many Germans to climate change. Now, the heat wave makes many homeowners, for example, consider their options, how to make sure that in the future their houses, their homes, their buildings are really more climate efficient. The German government gives subsidies if you make sure that your building becomes more climate efficient and heat efficient and energy efficient in terms of heating, in terms of hot water. And the authorities that distribute those subsidies report an increase in demand for those subsidies because, of course, now that climate change becomes obvious, more people believe that they themselves are also concerned. And last but not least, we have another trend in the travel sector. Germans are more likely to stay at home for the holidays because, well, the weather is now here in Germany in summer the way it only used to be in hot countries in the past. Today is the first day of holidays for the pupils, for the students in schools here in Frankfurt or in the federal state of Germany where, Frankfurt is part of. That only, unfortunately, applies to students. Market reporters have to work and stay inside this building, which at least is air conditioned.
Well, I'm sure you found a way to deal with the heat wave, Conrad. Thank you for your time and enjoy the rest of the day.